Much for joining me today.
Thank you. Yes, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yeah. So when we spoke briefly before, you just had a lot of impactful, inspiring things to say about why you decided to start modeling. So I'd love to just start the conversation off with, you know, what's your name? What do you do?
Yes.
Yeah, let's just start right there.
Okay, great. First of all, again, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. You're giving me a reason to put on my red lipstick because, with COVID, you can't wear, your lipstick and stuff because of the mask, but that's a side note. But anyways, my name is Taylor Simone. I'm a freelance model and actress and entrepreneur. So I'm a one woman business. I am my agent, branding manager, negotiator for my contracts, whatever you can think of, that's what I am.
Yes, that's amazing. And now tell us, how long have you been in this industry?
I've been in this industry since I was 9 years old. Oh my goodness. And now I'm in my 20s. So it's been a minute. It's been a long time.
So, what first inspired you to get into the modeling industry when you were 9 years old?
Yeah, like I told you, I was presented with two options of either being an athlete because I was always tall for my age, or being a model. So I never saw myself running down a court or sweating and different stuff like that. So as a little girl, I chose the glam option of being a model. So, but that's when I was 9 years old. As time progressed, my mindset changed and I looked at modeling differently.
Okay, so if you had some advice to give your 9 year old self or your 10-year-old self when you first started modeling, what would you?
Oh my gosh. Okay. That's a very good question. I probably would tell myself, don't get distracted by the noise that this industry makes. And what I mean by that is these what's the word? These their standards on beauty. You know what I'm saying? And don't I would tell myself, don't succumb to that. Don't be distracted by that. Like, you are beautiful. Don't compare yourself and don't hold yourself to that standard, because who said that is a standard, to begin with? Like, know that you're, a beautiful Black girl representing out here. So, yeah.
Yes, that was beautiful. I think that a lot of young women need to hear that, especially with things just now really diversifying within the modeling industry.
Right.
Like a lot of people don't realize that this diversity is fairly new.
Right.
And like I've heard models still say things like, "Oh, like I'm only 5'4", I could never be on anyone's runway," and I'm like, "Hey, like
Right.
the goals, like beauty fashion show, like we have a bunch of different
Yeah.
sizes that are doing runway now. So I
Right.
definitely agree that that's really important.
Right.
Leads me to my next question. So with you being based in, the southeastern region, you're in South Carolina, right?
Yes. Yes, I am.
With you being based in the southeastern region, I know a lot of models would say things like, well, if you really, want to get out there and get booked, then you have to move from the southeastern region. And
Mm.
well, I won't say move from the southeastern region, but I'll say
Right.
head towards more like Atlanta
Right.
and, Miami, or these big places like LA. Do
Right.
you have anything to say to that?
Oh yes, I have a lot to say, but I'm gonna sum it up. So with me, I thought the same thing initially, but as time progressed and as I matured and grew in wisdom, it's not, I learned it's not about where you are, but where you want to go. And that first starts in your mind. I don't care, where you're located. You can model from anywhere because there's always a market. You just got to know your market and where you are. You know what I mean? So I mean, hey, I travel to Atlanta, I'll travel wherever, but that doesn't mean I have to move, because you can move to Atlanta and still have to travel to Los Angeles or New York. So it starts in the mind first, and it's not about where you are, but where you want to go.
Wow, that's so important that you say that.
Yes.
I completely agree with you. I was watching a podcast once. I can't remember who they were interviewing. I think it may have been the entrepreneur Dame Dash, but you know, regardless, he was saying that if you can't make it where you are, then you can't make it anywhere. And that stood out to me so much, because during this time period, I was really big on like, oh, like, you know, I won't be able to make it here in North Carolina with my casting company. And of course, I had a lot of like outsiders that were like, yeah, you would do so much better in Atlanta. You do so much better in LA. You need to get out of North Carolina. And then, you know, I stumbled across that podcast and I was like, wow, that makes so much sense, because realistically, if you're making waves where you are and you're doing a good job and people are knowing who you are, you're going to have the opportunities to get booked in Atlanta. You're going to have those opportunities to get booked in LA anyway. And then, you know, that might end up taking you to move there. But it's like, if you can't like build that reputation where you are, then most likely you're just going to move to these places and you're going to be in the same, you're going to be, you know, started from square root one all over. And that's a lot of this problem. They like, with instead of building that foundation where they are, they just like, oh, I need to move. And then they're like, wait, why didn't my move like certain all the hard work that I actually have to put in to get to that level?
Right. And, you know, I agree with you. And I love that saying. You say, if you know, can't create a wave, you know, where you are, then it doesn't matter where you move. So when you create that wave, you know, you don't have to move anywhere. Like, the things will start flowing into you, the opportunities, right? And also, like you said, you being in North Carolina, and some people were saying like, maybe you want to go to Atlanta, but you know, you're really creating for yourself a competitive advantage in that market, because businesses still need actors, still need models for their advertisements, and businesses, you know, everywhere. So, you know, yeah, I totally agree with you.
So I just have a couple more questions for you today. I want to lead into a question of, so, you know, I specifically work with mostly Black and brown talent, and there's sometimes a lack of representation on set with just having Black talent and having, especially like we mentioned before, Black creatives who know how to work with Black talent. So can you just talk about that a little bit, like just being a Black model within this can be whitewashed industry?
Yes, I can talk about it. I remember in our conversation I mentioned it's like being pepper in the sea of salt. It's like no matter what opportunity I get, it's like I'm always the only Black female there, or just the only Black person. You know what I'm saying? But you know, I don't let that stop me, because I have just as much of a right to be in the room as my other Caucasian or whatever other ethnicity counterparts. You know what I'm saying? But it never fails. It's like I noticed, it's like I'm the only Black one there. And that tells me either there's a lack of you know, diversity in the industry, where there's not that many Black actors or models in the area, or, you know, they're just not or there is, and they're just not feeling like they're up to par with the other, you know, counterparts. But I don't let it stop me at all. Really. So.
And that's what you need to do to get your name out there.
Right.
Especially like we mentioned, with us being in areas like South Carolina and North Carolina, I feel like we have to work even harder to make those waves like I was talking about, because we're in smaller areas.
Right. Yeah, that's true. And also what you mentioned about, you know, just working with people that know how to work with our type of, skin and all that. I'm doing a Disney project now, and I was telling you before how I was so grateful to see a African-American makeup artist and hairstylist, because I know a sense of comfort came over me, because I don't want no damage happening to my skin or my hair after I'm, done filming that day. So, it just gives an appreciation, gives me a great appreciation for them having, Black people a part of the crew.
Yes. Now, do you have any advice for an upcoming model who doesn't really have, many resources or much funds to be paying for like expensive photo shoots and, expensive modeling schools that are costing $2,000 to $5,000? Do you have any advice for them? Like, how can they still get themselves out there and get booked for different opportunities? I know you mentioned earlier that you're your own agent, you're your own negotiator.
Yes.
Any advice of how you were able to make these strides on your own?
Yeah. So first, make sure you exhaust all of your options. Okay. Everything is digital now. So go on the internet. I know reputable websites that I even use, and it's at no cost, where you can, directly, submit yourself to the casting calls. Some of those sites are Project Casting, the Southern Casting Call, auditions free, Backstage, Actors Access. That just goes to say, do all your research online. Now, as far as when it comes to photo shoots, take advantage of the free ones, the trade for print. You know what I'm saying? Because, some people like to downplay that, but when you're building your portfolio, take advantage of that when somebody's wanting to, help you build your portfolio while helping themselves build a portfolio. Like, take advantage of it. It's at no cost. You just have to show up and show out. You know what I'm saying? And you can then turn that free work into paid work as your portfolio builds. But and also, as far as paying thousands of dollars for a school, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, while growing up, my parents, they did pay, but it is turning out great because I'm booking a lot of gigs now. But you should never have to pay an agent, to book you gigs. You know what I'm saying? They get paid when you get paid. It's not like a beforehand fee. And also, you can use your resource, on YouTube as well if you want to get modeling practice, acting resources, things like that. Just look on your online resources, I would say, first. So, yeah.
That was a great answer. So my last question for you today, I just had but it's okay, here it is. So my last question is, a lot of younger models, especially, 17, 18 years old, they feel a lot of pressure to have to do certain type of shoots, like boudoir or nude shoots, in order to like get their names out there. Or maybe it's like a really, really pop-in photographer who's asking them to do this. Do you have to say to like photographers pressuring models into doing things that they may not be that comfortable with, just under the pretenses of like, oh, like this is what you need to do, like this is going to help you get exposure, get your name out there?
Right. Yeah. So I remember, us talking about this as well in our previous conversation. Well, me, first off, I'm a Christian, so I base things off of that, if it's pleasing to God, because I'm an ambassador for him. So I don't take all kind of gigs, and I don't let nobody make me feel pressured, because like I always like to tell my girls that I mentor, there will always be more opportunities, and this ups your value as well, because it doesn't make you seem desperate or naive. You know what I'm saying? And it shows that you have respect for yourself. There's still beauty and mystery. You know what I'm saying? If you already put it out there, what else is there for us to see? You know what I'm saying? So, and then that also could typecast you. So if you're doing news, if you're doing lingerie, a family-oriented network such as Disney, like how I'm working on, it's not going to cast you because it's not kid friendly. Like your brand, you are your brand. If you already got stuff out there on you about like, you know, wearing lingerie and being nude, they're not going to want to cast you. So again, you know, there's beauty and mystery. Don't feel pressured. There's always more opportunities. Just know your worth, you know?
I love that. So tell the audience where they can follow you on social media and what type of like gigs that they can be booking you for.
Yeah, so you can follow me on IG at Miss Taylor Simone. So that's MISSTAYLORESIMONE. Or you can go to Facebook, Taylor Simone, same spelling. Or you can book me on booktaylorsimone@gmail.com. But I'm doing